They say there's two types of hockey fans: those who recognize Wayne Gretzky as the greatest of all time, and Pittsburgh fans. And while Mario Lemieux is certainly a legend in his own right, maybe deserving of his own video in the near future, today we're going to be discussing the only undisputed North American GOAT in all sports, Wayne Gretzky, holder of 57 official NHL records, 4 Stanley Cups, 2,857 points, and an innumerable number of inspired hockey players, expanding the sport all across the world. And these achievements look nice, but just how good was Gretzky at all? Was he the benefit of playing in the right place at the right time? Or did he truly possess such a high level of skill and hockey intelligence above his peers that may never be replicated? We will discuss just that in today's video, analyzing in detail how great Wayne Gretzky really was.
Soon Wayne was spending more time on the ice than in the house.
I would get on the ice before school and skate for an hour, hour and a half.
Gretzky was born to a small town couple in Brantford, Ontario in January of 1961. From the beginning, the Gretzky family must have known that they were raising a wunderkind, as they bought their first home 7 months after Wayne's birth, solely because the house's yard was flat enough to build a hockey rink, and Gretzky's did exactly that. 2 years later, Wayne would start skating, and the hockey world would change forever. From the beginning, it was clear Wayne was no ordinary hockey player. Inspired by his favorite hockey player, Gordie Howe, he showcased a similar knack for skating and an incredible hockey IQ. By age 6, he was already playing with 10-year-olds, and not just surviving, but thriving, scoring a goal as a 6-year-old against people almost twice his age, despite being smaller than every player he played with and against. In fact, he was so small that the jersey that he was given was too large for him, forcing him to tuck in the right side of his jersey, resulting in his iconic image, which followed him to the National Hockey League. In his 5 years of U10 hockey, Gretzky scored 706 goals, with 378 coming in his last season of that U10 league. In fact, Gretzky was so good that most youth leagues now have a Gretzky rule, which limits how many goals a player can score in a game. Now, you would think that parents and players would be astonished at Gretzky's skill and realize they were watching a legend in the making, right? Actually not. Gretzky was called a puck hog by his teammates and would use this criticism to transition more to a playmaking style. But this change was not enough. Wayne would continue getting booed everywhere he went by players, fans, and teammates alike, and Gretzky was forced to move to Toronto at 14. In Toronto, he would sign up to play Junior B hockey for the Toronto Nationals, a league that went up to age 20. This did not stop him though, as he earned Metro OHAB Rookie of the Year honors, scoring 60 points in just 28 games. The next year, his last year before becoming eligible for the OMJHL draft, otherwise now known as the OHL, he would score 72 points in 32 games. But this was not enough to be drafted first overall in the OHL draft, as 2 teams passed on Wayne Gretzky. The Oshawa Generals would take Tom McCarthy first overall, and the Niagara Falls Flyers, now the Saginaw Spirit, took Steve Peters. Peters and McCarthy would combine for 533 points in the OMJHL, but third overall, the Sioux City Greyhounds would select Wayne Gretzky, and Gretzky would be ready to make an immediate impact. Up to this point, Gretzky had worn the number 9 to honor his inspiration, Gordie Howe. However, when Gretzky arrived at Sioux City, his teammate, Brian Julazzi, was now wearing 9. So Sioux City head coach Muzz McPherson recommended Gretzky wear 99, and Gretzky obliged, finalizing the brand that would go on to terrorize the NHL for years to come. Now, Gretzky would only score 182 points for the Greyhounds. However, this was in one season, at 16, in just 60 games, making him almost a 3-point-per-game player. He would earn OMJHL Rookie of the Year and OMJHL Second Team All-Star honors. And now he was getting looks from professional organizations all across North America. Over the course of the NHL's lifetime, many organizations have tried to challenge the league's reign on hockey. All have failed. But the closest to achieving this nearly impossible feat was the World Hockey Association. Started in 1972, the World Hockey Association, or the WHA, attempted to capitalize on the NHL's lack of influence in major American cities and mid-sized Canadian cities by bringing teams to those areas, including Indianapolis, Edmonton, Phoenix, Cincinnati, and many others. The WHA even challenged the NHL's ability to restrict player movements, and they won, causing 67 players to jump from the NHL to the WHA in just the league's first year, including names like Bobby Hull, Gary Cheevers, Bernie Perron, etc. However, this success would not last long as the players left the NHL for bigger contracts the league could not afford in the long term. In fact, at one point, the highest paid athlete in the world was Derek Sanderson, defenseman for the WHA's Philadelphia Blazers, who was making more than even Brazilian soccer star Pelé. Sanderson was not even that good, forcing the team to buy him out before the end of the season. Because of this, the WHA started having financial troubles almost immediately, and was constantly spending money on legal troubles battling the NHL. To try and draw in new fans for the money, the WHA took advantage of their lack of rules regarding young players being signed directly to teams, something that the NHL did not allow until the player was 21. In 1978, Wayne Gretzky took advantage of this. At just 17, he was signed to a 7-year contract with the Indianapolis Racers worth $1.75 million USD in total. Gretzky took a little bit to get his footing, but would score his first professional hockey goal in his 4th game with the Racers, ironically against the Edmonton Oilers, scoring against future WHA MVP goaltender Dave Dryden, older brother of who you may know as Ken Dryden, and Gretzky would make sure this wasn't a fluke, as he would score his 2nd goal only 4 seconds later. People were beginning to realize Gretzky was going to succeed no matter what, and every team in the WHA wanted to trade for him. The Racers were one of the least profitable teams in the WHA, losing upwards of $40,000 a single game, which was a big reason that they signed Gretzky to try and draw in those fans. However, they still could not make enough money to keep him. Gretzky was informed that he would be traded and was asked whether he would like to go to Edmonton or Winnipeg, and the legend started from there. Gretzky had only played 8 games for Indianapolis, but was already traded to Edmonton for $700,000 cash. However, this wasn't enough. The Racers would fold just a few months after the trade, and Gretzky would arrive in Edmonton and thrive, finishing the regular season with 104 points in 72 games, winning the Lou Kaplan Trophy, the WHA's version of the Calder Trophy for the league's best rookie. The Oilers would even make the finals of the WHA playoffs, the first time in their history. Unfortunately, they lost to the Winnipeg Jets, who won their 3rd and the WHA's final championship. 1 month following the presentation of the championship trophy, the WHA would fold upon agreeing to merge with the NHL, giving 4 teams NHL franchises: Edmonton, Hartford, Quebec City, and Winnipeg, finally giving Gretzky the international stage upon which to shine.
Gets it ahead to Gretzky. Gretzky going in, Suter trying to get back. Gretzky with a shot, he scores!
The start of the 1979-80 season would see a lot of changes. 20% of the teams were new, helmets became mandatory, the Red Wings moved to their new building, iconic Joe Louis Arena, and a young star was ready to make his mark. In Gretzky's first game, he would tally an assist, really proving how his game had transitioned from a shoot-first mentality in his younger years to the elite playmaking ability he would showcase throughout his time in the NHL. This wasn't the only thing Gretzky would do in his first NHL season. Gretzky tallied 137 points, the most by anyone in their first season in the NHL. One thing to note is these are not rookie records, because players who played in the WHA could not be counted as rookies. Gretzky also finished the season as the youngest player to ever score 50 goals at 19 years and 2 months. There are countless other unofficial records Gretzky broke in his first year, but one thing the NHL did recognize was his elite offensive talent, awarding him the Hart Memorial Trophy for the player found to be the most important to his team, the NHL's MVP award, so to say. He was also the youngest player to win that at 19 years and 6 months. The only person to come close to this is Sidney Crosby, who won it at 19 years and 10 months. Another fun fact, of the top 10 youngest players to win the Hart, Gretzky is 4 of them. Gretzky also won the Lady Byng as the most gentlemanly player, finishing his first NHL season with 2 trophies, 6% of the trophies that he would earn throughout his career. Gretzky's next 3 seasons would see him win award after award, winning the Art Ross for the league's top scorer and the Hart Trophy every season from 1980 to 1983, and even setting the NHL record for goals in a season with 92 in 1982, while scoring 212 points, the first time in NHL history a player had scored 200 points. This came as the Edmonton Oilers kept building around Gretzky. They drafted Mark Messier in the 7th round, Glenn Anderson in the 4th round, and Kevin Lowe 21st overall in the 1979 draft. Paul Coffey 6th overall, and Jari Kurri in the 4th round of the 1980 NHL draft. Grant Fuhr 8th overall in the 1982 draft, and Esa Tikkanen in the 4th round of the 1983 draft. Fuhrer, Messier, Coffey, Curry, and Gretzky would all be labeled as part of the NHL's top 100 players of all time, and Edmonton built and developed them all in the 4 years from 1979 to 1983. They had built a powerhouse to rival the New York Islanders, who were coming into the 1983-84 season as the 4-time straight Stanley Cup champions. Edmonton had just lost to the Islanders in the final, having been swept. An embarrassing loss, as the team had made it to the final, having swept 2 of their 3 matchups and only losing once prior to the final, missing out on a Stanley Cup with a playoff record of 11-5, all 11 wins coming prior to the final. But adding Esa Tikkanen in the 83 draft really pushed them over the edge, as they would finish the 83-84 season with a whopping 119 points, which would have earned them the President's Trophy. However, that award was not introduced until 86. Gretzky would once again win the Hart for the 5th straight time and the Art Ross for the 4th straight time, and finish the season with 205 points. Edmonton built off their regular season success, sweeping the Jets in the first round. Gretzky scored 5 points in the 3 games that it took at the time to win a first-round series. Next was their Alberta neighbor, the Calgary Flames. The Flames and the Oilers sparked a rivalry early on in 1980, as the Flames would relocate from Atlanta, Georgia to Calgary, Alberta to become the second team in the province. Both teams had something to prove, as citizens from Edmonton and Calgary had always argued over who was the best city since the province's creation in 1905. Upon the province's creation, both cities vied to be labeled as the capital of Alberta, and in 1906, Edmonton would be designated as the province capital. And 78 years later, Wayne Gretzky would label Edmonton as the hockey capital of Alberta, scoring 13 points in 7 games en route to a series win over Calgary, pushing the Oilers one step closer to their first ever Stanley Cup. And the Battle of Alberta rivalry would be renewed. Calgary would be the most resistance Edmonton would face as well, sweeping the Minnesota North Stars in the conference final before finally slaying their demons in the New York Islanders, beating them 4-1 and winning the 1984 Stanley Cup. This would be the first of 4 Stanley Cups Gretzky would win with the Oilers, setting record after record, including most points in a postseason in 1984 and 85 with 47 in just 18 games, highest plus-minus of a forward in the regular season with plus 100 in 84 and 85, and most points in a regular season with 215 in 85-86. All of these records still stand to this day. Gretzky over this time would also win 3 more Hart trophies, 2 Conn Smythe trophies for the player most valuable to their team in the playoffs, and 3 more Hart trophies. However, Gretzky would not win the Hart in 1988 for the first time in his career, having won 8 Hart trophies in a row from 1979 to 1987, the most Hart trophies anyone had ever received, and shattered the record for the most consecutive Hart trophies that Bobby Orr set from 1970 to 1972 with 3. Unfortunately for Edmonton, another Hart would not be the only thing that the city lost that year. Hey guys, before we move on, I just wanted to thank you all so much for your support on this channel. It's been great to see that you all love the videos I've been pushing out. But before we continue, I just wanted to ask you to leave your opinions on the video so far in the comments below, like the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Subscriptions really just make me really want to continue this journey and make me want to put out more content for you all to enjoy. So a subscription means a ton, and it just seeing what you all think, how I can improve, that also just makes this job so much more fun to do. So thank you all so much for watching. I won't hold you for much longer. Let's get into Act 4, the trade.
That I announce, and I guess more important, confirm that the Edmonton Oilers have agreed to trade Wayne Gretzky to Los Angeles.
August 9th, 1988. Wayne Gretzky was traded to the Los Angeles Kings alongside Mike Krushelinski and Marty McSorley for Jimmy Carson, Martin Jelena, first-round picks in 89, 91, and 93, and $15 million. Now, I'm not going to really dive too deep into the trade solely because it's been talked about to death, but to summarize, the trade was bad for Edmonton, and everybody knew that. But Edmonton's owner, Peter Paulington, felt he had to get something for Gretzky because when Gretzky's contract expired at the end of the 88-89 season, he wasn't going to be able to afford to re-sign him. Now, this upset many people, and Gretzky was so important to Canada that members of the Canadian Parliament urged the government to block the trade somehow, but it was no use. Gretzky was headed across the border. Gretzky moving to the US had a deep impact on hockey in the States, and this trade changed the future of hockey in ways that cannot be understated. But to condense a long list of things the Gretzky trade did for USA Hockey, I'll discuss it. At this time, Americans outside of the North did not really know anything about hockey, but they knew one thing: 99 was good at hockey. And to have him coming to an audience that did not understand the game was huge for the sport. All of a sudden, hundreds of thousands of people who had never once laced up a skate wanted to know how to be like Gretzky. Gretzky was so good, he single-handedly spread the sport to the western and southern US. This trade popularized the sport so much in California that within 5 years of the trade, 2 more NHL teams, the Anaheim Ducks and the San Jose Sharks, came to the state. And on top of that, the number of registered USA Hockey members grew 100% in the state of California. Without Gretzky's move and the impact it had on non-traditional markets, we wouldn't have players like Thatcher Demko, Austin Matthews, Jason Robertson, or the Hughes brothers. This one trade completely altered the hockey landscape for the better, and while Canadians then may have been upset, these players, the way Gretzky influenced them, may be the reason that Canada wins a cup again in the next few years.
Gary Curry, McSorley to Gretzky! Scores! He did it! He did it! The greatest goal scorer in National Hockey League history is Wayne Gretzky!
Edmonton may have been where Gretzky showcased his excellence, but LA is where he built his legacy. Gretzky immediately made an impact in California, as in his first year in LA, he scored 54 goals for his 9th season with 50-plus goals, tying Mike Bossy, an official NHL record that still remains to this day. In fact, with 164 points on the season, Gretzky would even take his new team to face his old Oilers in the 1989 NHL playoffs, where he beat them 4-3 in the first round. But unfortunately, they would be bounced in the second round, getting swept by his rival Flames. Also, unfortunately, this would be the last time Gretzky would beat the Oilers in the postseason, but that would not stop him from further cementing his name into hockey's history books at the behest of his former club. And at the beginning of the 1989-90 season, at just 28 years old, Wayne Gretzky would do the unthinkable and break Gordie Howe's all-time point record to become the highest scoring player in NHL history, ironically, once again, against the Edmonton Oilers. Gretzky would do this with 53 seconds remaining in regulation to tie the game for the Kings, and to just further stick more salt in the wound, he would score 3 minutes into overtime to win the game for LA over Edmonton. Gretzky would continue to put up amazing performances year over year for the Kings, earning 3 Art Rosses and a Hart with them, and would end his streak of consecutive 100-point seasons after the 91-92 season, putting his record at 13 seasons, double the next closest, which is Mike Bossy's 6 consecutive 100-point seasons. Gretzky would seal his record book by scoring his 802nd goal on March 23, 1994. This would place him atop the NHL goal total, overtaking once again his idol, Gordie Howe. This goal would be set up by longtime teammates Jari Kurri and Marty McSorley, symbolizing how Gretzky was able to build up his teammates around him, and as Gretzky poked in the puck behind a disappointed Kirk McLean, hockey's history book had been properly rewritten by the Great One, as he achieved the last record he possibly could.
You cannot say he didn't go out with all the class that he has shown us in 20 years. Probably the best player on this ice surface here in New York today.
Gretzky would play for the St. Louis Blues and the New York Rangers to end his career, but never played as well for them as he did for LA and Edmonton. Seeing his own decline and feeling he could not handle the off-season training requirements, Gretzky would retire and play his last game on April 18, 1999 at Madison Square Garden, 20 years after he had started his career and at the age of 38. He would score 62 points in his final season. Gretzky's last game would see him set up Brian Leetch in a 2-1 overtime loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the greatest era in hockey history was over. Everyone knew it. Even the Pittsburgh Penguins lined up to give Gretzky his dues and honored the greatest player to ever play the game. As Gretzky skated around the ice for the last time, he would leave with 61 official NHL records held, 4 Stanley Cups, 9 Hart trophies, 10 Art Ross trophies, 2,857 points, 1,963 assists, 894 goals, and an innumerable number of other awards and unofficial records to his name. Even at the time, everybody knew Gretzky was the greatest to ever do it, as just 2 months later, it would be announced that Gretzky would be inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, the fastest any player had ever been inducted. Gretzky's number 99 would also be retired by the Edmonton Oilers on October 1, 1999, and league-wide on February 6, 2000. Gretzky's 99 remains the only number retired by the NHL, and was just the second number at the time retired league-wide in any professional sports league, alongside Jackie Robinson's number 42, retired by the MLB in 1997. Bill Russell's number 6 would also be retired league-wide by the NBA in 2022 as well, making Gretzky one of 3 to have his number retired league-wide in professional sports to this day. So, to summarize, was Gretzky really the best hockey player of all time? Or is he just lucky to be surrounded by great teams and great teammates? Well, I believe if you look at how successful Gretzky was, no matter where he went, it's really obvious that he made the players around him better and not the other way around. So I say that he truly is the greatest, most talented player in NHL history. Gretzky's skill and impact on the sport of hockey is hard to put into words, and even I don't think I did it justice in this video. So I've attached a bunch of other videos in the description from fellow creators that discuss Gretzky, his talent, and his impact on hockey as a whole that I implore you all to check out. You can also check out a full list of Gretzky's official NHL records, which is now at 57 as of the making of this video, at the link in the top of the description. Other than that, if you like this style of video making, check out my video talking about the worst single game performance in NHL history. It's really a doozy. But I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in my next video. Take care. Bye now.